Welcome back to Undisputed. After dealing DeAndre Hopkins to the Cardinals, the Texans are now acquiring receiver Brandon Cooks from the Rams for a second-round draft pick. So, Shannon, in your opinion, who won the trade?
Actually, who I really think won the trade is Arizona because they got rid of a running back they didn't want, and they got a top 3 receiver in return. But, Skip, if I'm going to say between the Texans and the Rams, probably the Rams, Skip, because you get a second-round pick, and then Brandon Cook has been good, but he has issues with concussions. And so, Skip, the Rams had to they went for it. And the last couple of years, Skip, we see them shell out big dollars for Todd Gurley. They shelled out big dollars for Aaron Donald, and Jared Goff got paid. Remember they made the trade for Dante Fowler. They signed Clay Matthews. They went and got Aqib Talib a couple of years ago. They traded for Jalen Ramsey. Skip, when you pay your top players top dollar, and nobody is willing to give you a discount, this is what's going to happen. Even if they had won the Super Bowl, they were going to have to break this thing up, but at least, Skip, you got a Super Bowl to show for it. Well, unfortunately, they only have a Super Bowl appearance to show for this. Skip, for the money that they're paying, Brandon Cooks and the receiver they got from the Cowboys, Cobb, that was the money they could have gave to D-Hop. Randall Cobb. The money they're paying him, and plus you take on $11 million for David Johnson. You got Duke Johnson. You got Carlos Hyde. So let me get, you would rather have Brandon Cooks and Randall Cobb, as opposed to D-Hop? D-Hop is a top 3, by any metric, Pro Football Focus or whomever else you want to use, he's a top 3 receiver. Julio, Mike Thomas, and D-Hop. Now, your order, we can debate that another day in time, Skip, but he's a top 3 receiver. And you were unwilling, it's going to cost you $39 million over the next 2 years for Brandon Cooks and Randall Cobb. You don't think D-Hop is worth $39 million over those 2 years. So for me, Skip, I'm gonna go with the Rams. I still don't believe Bill O'Brien, the general manager, because that's his role also. He served dual roles. He's doing a terrible job for Bill O'Brien, the head coach.
Okay. I'm going to say that the Texans won this trade, but more specifically, that Deshaun Watson won this trade. And yet, I am completely with you. Obviously, what happened with DeAndre Hopkins was the all-time abomination trade. It was spite-fueled because Bill O'Brien got sideways with DeAndre. I believe it became personal between the two. He tried to dismiss it as, well, he just wanted more money. No, I think it got real personal. And Bill O'Brien, the GM and coach, said, I'm going to get rid of that guy. And if I have to give him away, I'll just give him away. And he did. And he took on a David Johnson, who we all know in 2016, which is now 4 years ago, he was first-team All-Pro. Since then, in the last 3 seasons, it took 3 seasons for David Johnson to pile up enough stats to equal what he did in 2016. And they still owe him a ton of money. It's 10.2 next year, and then about $8 million the next year. So Bill O'Brien thinks that he can salvage the career of David Johnson. I don't. DeAndre Hopkins is going to put Kyler and the Arizona Cardinals on the map. I think they're going to be a wild card team in large part because of DeAndre and the new connection that he will provide for a Kyler who's going to take a Mahomes-like jump in year 2, a Lamar Jackson-like jump in year 2. And he was obviously an above-average quarterback last year. So I'm with you on that, Shannon. But given the abomination that was that trade, I do like it for Deshaun's sake that then Bill O'Brien tried to salvage his team by saying, okay, I'll go find somebody else for Deshaun. That somebody has concussion issues. We know that he's had 5 concussions in 6 years. We know he had a concussion early in the second quarter of that abomination of a Super Bowl in which Belichick blew it and let Nick Foles obviously be Super Bowl MVP and hang 41 points on the Patriots. And Brady, even without Brandon Cooks, remember, he didn't have Brandon Cooks for 3 quarters, and he still threw it for a playoff record 505 and put up 33 points in a losing cause, the most points ever scored by a Super Bowl loser. But he did so without Brandon. And then last year, Brandon in LA with the Rams had 2 concussions that cost him a couple of games. Is that going to haunt him going forward? Maybe. But remember, he's only 26, and Houston will only owe him $8 million, even though he's going to count. His cap hit is 16.8, and the Rams are going to eat like $22 million in dead money next year. That's on them. It's not on the Texans. And if the Texans don't like what they see, if he does have concussion issues, they do have an out in the contract where they can cut bait without cost after this next season. But I do like the fact that at only 26, Brandon Cooks can still fly. Remember, he ran 4.33 at the Combine coming out of Oregon State. And again, now at least Deshaun has somebody, and they did go overpay for Randall Cobb, who had a terrific year last year, making $5 million in Dallas. Now he makes guaranteed $999 million over the next 3 years in Houston. Way overpaid. But at least Deshaun's got him. He's got Brandon. He's got William Fuller. He still has Kenny Stills. So those 4, not bad. I'm not saying they're Tampa Bay's receivers, but they're not bad. And so I'm happy for Deshaun. I root for Deshaun. I'm not a Bill O'Brien fan. I was not a fan of Bill O'Brien long before the world became not a fan of Bill O'Brien. I never liked him. I can't argue with the fact that they've won that division for the last 5 years. It's the most winnable, or it has been the most winnable division in football. But so I can't condemn him as a coach, but as a GM, he's disastrous. But at least he went out and tried to salvage something in Brandon Cooks. And you have to ask, well, is Brandon Cooks better right now than whoever they could draft? Yeah, he probably is, if his concussion syndrome doesn't keep him out of games. So in the end, go ahead.
No, but you will see, I need to give people context, because that's what I do. I like to provide context. Let me explain to the people at home why Skip Bayless had it out for Bill O'Brien from a long, long time ago, because he's the only coach to ream Tom Brady on the sideline. He say, sit your butt down, Tom. And Skip Bayless has had it in for that man since, because Tom Brady was picking on little one Tyquan Underwood, who deserved better treatment than that. And Bill O'Brien said, no, Tommy, no, you're not going to do that. I'm the coach. Sit your $5 tail down before I make change for you. And that's what he did. And you had it in from that. But Skip, if you look at what the Houston Texans, they don't have a first rounder because they gave that up for Larry Tunsil. Now they don't have a second rounder because they traded that for Brandon Cooks. Now they did get, I think they might have 2 third rounders because they got one from Seattle for Jadeveon Clowney. And so they might have 2 because they have their own. And now they have maybe 2 forwards. But Skip, now it's being reported that they might be anywhere between 8 and 12 receivers go in the first 2 rounds. Skip, you can get some quality. You can get quality at that position in this draft. So for me, look, I get it. The Rams was in salary cap hell. Skip, you mentioned they're moving in a building that's going to be somewhere between $3 and $5 billion. That salary cap, and even billionaires in a time like this, Skip, they looking at their pocket, they squeezing their pockets too. So if you know of a billionaire squeezing his pocket, the kind of effect that it's having on normal people, Skip. And so for me, I still believe the Rams won because they get a second, because the Rams don't have a first rounder. They gave that up for Jalen Ramsey, Skip. Remember, they traded for Jalen Ramsey last year. So they gave up their first rounder. So they're they still have Cooper Kupp. You mentioned they have Robert Wood. I think Everett, the tight end. So they still have some quality pieces. Don't know what they're going to do at running back. Defensively, look, you got Aaron Donald. On the front end, they bring Brockers back, Skip. You got Jalen Ramsey on the back end. You should be pretty formidable on the defensive side of the football. Now, we're going to see how good, he was labeled as a genius, Skip, for 2 to 3 years, Sean McVay. We're going to see, is he still advancing? Is he still smart, as people said that he was?
Yeah, and Jared Goff reportedly loves Josh Reynolds. I'll see about that. I'm with you. I believe the Rams are in decline. quick point of order about Bill O'Brien as the offensive coordinator in New England. On that day, and I believe it was at Washington, Tyquan Underwood ran the wrong route in the red zone across the back of the end zone. And Tom Brady waited until they got to the bench to let the young receiver know that he ran the wrong route. The young receiver pushed back against Tom Brady, and Brady did not like it, and he was reading him the riot act when Bill O'Brien got involved to try to break it up. All I know is that Tyquan Underwood lasted only 2 more games and got cut. So who was in the right there? I think the GOAT was in the right there. And the GOAT had every right to tell a kid who was going to get cut that he ran the wrong route. Thank you very much.
Whoa. Guess what? Now I can insert myself. I like to think that I can equate myself to Tyquan Underwood, one Shannon Sharp, young Shannon Sharp. I'm sure there are times in the game that I ran the wrong route. John Elway, who had gone to Super Bowl, who is very, very accomplished, he never read me the riot act. Because someone only plays a year or two, that's still a human being. That man got a mom, a dad, he got sisters, a brother. You don't know, and you gonna be openly disrespectful? Bill O'Brien read him the riot act on the sideline, and Tom Brady bucked back. Bill O'Brien said, I'm the coach here. I do the corrections, not you, Tom. Let's not forget, coach, player. You're the exact same thing. You're more accomplished than Tyquan Underwood, but you're the exact same thing as Tyquan Underwood, a player. So let's not get it twisted, Tommy.
So Shannon Sharp just put himself in the same sentence with Tyquan Underwood. Oh, so now we've gone from comparing ourselves to Tom Brady to sharing the same boat with Tyquan Underwood. Well, that's probably more where you belong, is down in the Tyquan Underwood.